Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of DawnCast. I'm Dai Lee.
And I'm Kathy Ngo.
Now, job interviews can be intimidating, and a lot of time and human resources goes into the screening and hiring of candidates. But what if we took the human out of this question? Curious Thing co-founder Sam Zheng might just have the answer. Welcome, Sam.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So first of all, congratulations on creating this and leading a team of disruptors with Curious Thing. Tell us, what is it and what does it do? There's a bit of technical problem.
Okay. First of all, let me clarify, not taking human. Yes, we are not. Can you hear me?
Yes, there's a bit of a technical.
Yes, we are not taking. Yeah, maybe it's the internet speed. Shall we start again, or I don't know?
No, that's fine. Just continue. We're pretty good.
Got it. So yeah, so first of all, let me clarify. We are not taking human part out of the equation. We are basically, letting people refocus on the more important step of the whole process. Because for lots of people, they think recruitment as one interview, they make a decision. But the reality is, on average, people do 4 to 6 rounds. So we are just doing the first round using AI to do the shortlisting. To go back to your question, what is Curious Thing? We are basically phone call-based conversational AI for first round of interview. And the problem we are solving is because now when you think about shortlisting, you receive 1,000 applications, maybe you spend 5 to 7 seconds per CV. Then you make a shortlisting decision from 1,000 to 100 or 1,000 to 50. We are trying to give candidates the opportunity to interview 100%. Businesses the opportunity to interview 100% of the candidates, so they can make more data-driven, recruitment or shortlisting decision. So that's the problem we are solving. We actually want to help people. We are not replacing people.
So how does it work? So can you take us through the process of how it works?
Yeah, let me actually show you. How does it work very quickly? Let's assume I apply for a job and then I receive an email saying, hey, please call this number for the interview. Then.
Is it straight away that you would get that response?
Yes, through an email with the ping. So this is my mobile phone.
Welcome to interview hosted by Curious Thing. To help me locate your interview, please enter your PIN followed by the hash key.
Then I just need to insert my PIN.
Thank you. Your code is 1111. Please wait while I check your code. Your interview role is engineer at Curious Thing. I will pass you to our AI interviewer now. Please wait a second. Welcome to the AI interviewer of Curious Thing. My name is Christine. Thanks for joining me today. We will go through a short interview with a mix of technical and behavioral.
I'll stop here. So essentially, after the intro, I can do the conversation with AI, just like I do the phone interview with another human. The strength of AI is AI doesn't sleep. AI can handle thousands of phone calls, overnight, and importantly, it scales with consistency. So that's why we are developing this to help with the shortlisting process, which is the first round of interview.
Okay.
I've been a recruiter in the past.
I was going to say,
and oh my God, every time I would advertise a role, I'd get thousands of applications. And I feel really bad for each applicant if I don't get back to them within a few days because they get really frustrated. It can be a poor candidate experience. So I can see that there is this need here. So why did you start this business? Were you in recruitment or HR in the past? Like, what was the kind of moment where you were like, I need to start this?
I wasn't a recruiter at all. Actually, this is the kind of the unique part of Curious Thing. So maybe I'll quickly introduce myself. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. This is my second startup. Previously, I was CTO co-founder of another AI startup called Hyperana. The company is still there. I'm still a shareholder. I'm just no longer involved. So a few things triggered the start of this company, which was we want to essentially use a new technology called Knowledge Graph to build a paradigm of the new technology that can do basically AI questioning. So unlike most of the conversational AI, what we want to do is put AI in the driver's seat and ask a question to human to collect information and with purposes. So we thought we were building some computational curiosity. That's why we call ourselves Curious Thing. The kind of like application layer which is the AI job interview was actually we only started this like few months after we were building the API layer, which is the AI asking question, with purposes part. So that's two separate things. When we started, we didn't really think of the recruitment. The reason why we were doing the recruitment conversational AI is because what we have found, because my previous company will also do conversational AI, including my co-founder's previous company, people usually don't take AI very serious. And only for certain use cases like job interview, people will actually answer question, basically seriously because you have something at stake.
What was the purpose of having an AI asking a question? So what was the idea behind that? Why was it so important that the AI asked the questions?
That's a great question. Let me share with you, today, most of the conversational AI, framework, they are designed with a task fulfillment paradigm. If you think about, say, how you work with Siri or, Alexa, usually handles things like what's the weather today, order me a pizza or play me Beatles, right? It's like human drive the conversation while AI just fulfill the task, which is great. We're not against that at all. But for some other situation or some other conversations, you might want AI to be the driver of the conversation. The purpose is to collect information in a very consistent way, so you can do benchmarking or just basically just to tap into, our like knowledge as human beings, so that we can discover some insights or automate a certain part of the decisions, because if you ask human to do that, there are two issues. Firstly, as a human being, I can only make 10 phone calls per day, right? I can't make 1,000. It's impossible. The second thing is, if I make that phone call in the morning or in the afternoon, they are not going to be consistent because maybe I didn't really have a great lunch. So in the afternoon, I might feel not as good as, a phone call in the morning. So us as human beings, we can do deep and very, very complex decision, but also it's subject to non-linear biases.
We got emotions, gets in the way.
Exactly.
And if we haven't had our coffee, we get cranky.
No cigarette, we kind of, that person picks up the phone and we're thinking, hang on, we don't like the sound of that voice. That's it.
And also bias, right? If we hear maybe an accent or whatever it is, there is that risk as well.
So are you saying that the conversational AI will not have those biases like accent?
You can benchmark because it's asking the same questions, right, for that particular job. Is that right? And then you can compare the answers.
Absolutely. Our AI will ask, similar questions, not exactly the same question, because based on people's answer, the AI might ask different follow-up questions, just to make sure that, as candidate, they do understand what they are talking about. Say, for this particular topic, can you share with me more, et cetera, et cetera. But they are very consistent. One key thing we share with our client, and we also have positive feedback on that, is our AI only analyze what people have said instead of how they say it. So essentially it can basically open up your pipeline. And so you will data not just from those people you would usually hire, but from everyone. So one of our clients from New Zealand, they actually shared with us, using us as the first step of the interview. They actually have lots of diversity in terms of like people going towards the second round or the third round. So which we are super, super proud of.
I read somewhere that you're a self-taught engineer. In addition to being a serial entrepreneur, how did you teach yourself engineering, or is that actually true, or I read somewhere
Well,
incorrectly?
it is true. I'll share with you guys something funny because, in engineering field, if people are saying, I'm self-taught engineer, people think you are really good. But what I realize is when I work with my client, I'm like, oh, it's a self-taught engineer. Does it mean you are not as good as a normal engineer? That's why I stopped telling people I'm a self-taught engineer. So my training background is actuarial. I was trained as actuary. I was
Numbers.
spending years building stats model for insurance companies. Modeling earthquake, bushfire. Then I went to consultancy. Then I started my first startup. So, I kind of like learned lots of coding myself, and I love it. But it's not like I come from a totally different background, because as an actuary or statistician, you also need to do coding, but it's just a different types of coding.
Now, you said that you're a serial entrepreneur and you started the Hyper Anna startup.
Yeah.
What is
Yes.
Hyper Anna? What does it do, and how different is that to Curious Thing?
And why is Anna hyper?
And why is Anna hyper?
Okay, so yeah, I can't really, represent Hyperana a lot because I'm no longer a director there.
course,
So
yeah.
Hyperana, long story short, it's artificial intelligence for data scientists. It's basically AI for BI, business intelligence. So I was a CTO co-founder there. So I was basically the person build up the stuff in the beginning. That's pretty much what Hyperana does.
Yeah, so both is still basically in AI, artificial intelligence, using artificial intelligence to obviously, with your actuary background, it's about benchmarking, getting the numbers and having statistics.
Probabilities.
Yeah, probabilities and statistics and graph, isn't it? That's all I can see.
Yes. Absolutely. Actually, the two companies, they are in two very different subfields of artificial intelligence, because it's a very, very big field. And, at Curious Thing, we do more conversational AI. We are more focusing on natural language processing, which is one of the very important, sector within our artificial intelligence as a big industry.
Now, the biggest, the recent news is that you are creating this platform for the Department of Foreign Affairs. They're using your platform. Is that right?
Sorry, can you please repeat your question? I didn't
I
fully
said that
get it.
the news recently was that you are doing something with the department, a government agency, in terms of using your platform.
Got it. You're referring to the Austrade article.
Austrade, sorry, yes.
So yes. So I think the article is mainly about two things. Firstly, we are expanding in the US. Actually, we have started our expansion, I don't know, since January, February. So we have one team member there based in San Francisco. So another thing in the article, it particularly mentioned is because, we won a tender. We are selected for, part of it's called Recruitment Reimagined, for the US Air Force. So it's like, they are trying to, I would say, re-engineer the whole recruitment process, and we are selected as one of the software that is going to be part of the kind of like a new recruitment process. So that's a very huge news for us. I think we are the only international software provider, and most of the other companies are huge. We are very, very proud.
I was going to say, you must have been excited with the news.
Yes, I was excited for, I would say, a few minutes. Then I went back to my day-to-day busy work. So
getting back to the grind.
Yeah. So here at Dawn, we're very much about shining a light on a lot of culturally diverse voices as well. In addition to diverse voices, has your cultural upbringing have to do much with what you're doing now? Like, is it? Would you say it has contributed to your drive and your tenacity and your desire to do all these entrepreneurial projects? Would you think?
the very honest answer is I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm sorry for saying this because I think why I'm building a start. People like doing startups for all different reasons, right? The reason why I do startups is because I want to build real product that value to people.
Sorry,
Because that's a part
Sam, you just dropped out. So can you repeat what you said?
Yeah.
That the initial, you're saying that the reason why you build startup?
Yes. Okay, I'll repeat that again. So yeah, I think people are building startups for all different reasons, right? For me, the reason why I really love doing a startup, building a company from scratch is because I really love building product. Building a product that is so good, people use it, and people actually gain lots of value out of that. Because that's my drive and that's my passion. Yeah, because I think that's a key thing. Not necessarily the other part. My primary drive is actually building an awesome product. Which, if I think back regarding culture, I don't think it's relevant a lot. But maybe when I was like being a kind of like a statistician, when I was like doing model, lots of the way of thinking were built there, which is the very earlier stage of my career. I see how a well-defined process and a kind of like a smart and intelligent decisions can really add value to businesses. Yeah.
Along that journey to build products, there must have been some very dark moments where you think, I don't know if I'm going to, make this happen.
Or challenges.
Yeah. What were some of those moments?
To start with, I think our hypothesis, because at Curious Thing, we have 3 co-founders, myself, David, and Han. We are all from tech background. However, we are very different in terms of like cultural background, in terms of age. And I think when we started, there was one thing we sit down, discussed that really kind of like was driving the whole journey of Curious Thing, which is the fact that we believe in iteration, which essentially works in this way. It's more like everything we have as opinion is hypothesis. And, if it's a hypothesis, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't take action. It only means that we take it as a hypothesis. When we go out and do our kind of like initial testing, it's literally a testing. Then we revisit hypothesis. The reason why I mentioned this is because lots of like dark moments are actually due to the fact that from time to time we can't accept uncertainties, especially when the uncertainty is becoming something that is kind of like a negative outcome. However, for us, we accept these kind of like uncertainties in the beginning. So in general, I would say emotion-wise, we are not like very extreme. We are relatively stable as founders.
That's great because you're talking about you seeing those dark moments as hypothesis. Is that right? Is that what you're saying? That basically you're so therefore you having because it's a hypothesis. You have, if it's failed, then you come back with another hypothesis and you iterate. Is that
exactly? As a company, we don't really like. Of course, great ideas are awesome, but we don't think great ideas, they are the foundation of a good business or product. We believe great iteration is the foundation of building a very, very innovative product. So all of this is translated into how we see the world, how we see uncertainties, and how do we build stuff.
What are some of the major highlights that you've experienced so far in starting Curious Things?
I think the major highlight, let me think. I think firstly, it's my team. I'm super, super proud of my team. I think if someone asks me, it's like, what's the number one thing you are most proud of? I would say it's my team, because we started with 3 people. Now we are 14, still a super, super small team, but we have 3 locations. We have Sydney, Brisbane, and also San Francisco. However, we can really, really usually say that we have one very, very good team culture. And the team culture is not just what founders kept talking about, it's actually what we practice every day, which I'm very, very proud of. And I started to realize this bit of like the team culture, being a very good highlight of my journey was the first year anniversary of this company, which was July last year. And when the whole team sit down, we talk about, hey, what we like about our company and what we don't like about our company so we can improve. Actually, people were discussing in smaller groups. However, what we come up with is something super, super similar. Then we converted that into team culture, statements. So, I think that's the moment I'm very proud of.
So there are 2 things out of that. First, did you use your Curious Thing AI to select your candidates? 2, how do you define a good team culture?
To answer your first question, yes, we do. In fact, our AI is designed for more junior, high volume roles. However, for us, because in software companies, people say you have to eat your own dog food. So yeah, we do eat our own dog food. We have to. If you are in sales, you have to give it a try and see if you like this product. If you don't like it, how are you going to sell it? If you are in technology, you need to give and see if you want to be part of the team building it, right? To answer your second question, which is how do I define a good team culture? I would say, a good team culture, firstly, it should be unique. The reason why I say this is because, if we say our team culture is being ethical, then you need to ask yourself, or which company's team culture is not about being ethical, right? Every company needs to be ethical. If your team culture is about doing high quality work, again, it's too generic. So what we have is, firstly, we over communicate, which is, if there is a certain thing you don't know whether you should ask or not, just ask. If there is a certain thing you don't know whether you should share or not, just share. The second thing about, what is, in my opinion, a great team culture is it's actually going to be, the multiplier. So just think about like every individual as individual kind of like contributors, right? And you sum them up as a team. Culture is actually the multiplier, and it's actually the company's job to make sure that the multiplier is greater than 1, which could be 1.1, 1.2. So overall, you achieve something better. But if your team culture is not as good, then you can have lots of great individuals, but the multiplier is 0.8 and 0.9. And importantly, when your company grows, team culture is the only thing that could scale. Because, as company leaders, when your company is 30, 40 people, it's very difficult for you to have one-on-one with them every day. But you have to rely on others in the team to make sure that, the team culture is expanding into the new team members' day-to-day work. So yeah, that's how we see this.
I think that's the best answer I've ever heard in my life.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, just amazing.
Oh, because of the math formula, right?
Yeah, it's just like...
Yeah, what is the formula? Can you give us the formula again?
It's just like there's true statistician.
Yeah. But, as I listen to it, I'm thinking, well, how do you, the multiplier, how do you have that multiplier effect in culture?
Well, then it's like if you've got a lot of good individuals, then collectively it would... Okay, I'm probably not explaining this properly. Multiply, but actually... No, I'm not going to try to explain it again, but I get it.
So do you know what I mean, Sam? Like,
Yeah.
how do you then have that multiplier effect in culture?
Let me give you a real life example, right? Say in lots of software companies, the product or development team and the business team, sometimes there are misalignment because from business side, they don't fully know what product roadmap is. They only know the high level. At the same time, they don't necessarily understand how long does it take to build a new feature. And from dev side, they don't fully understand how difficult it is to close a deal, right? So then from time to time, there might be tension, there might be agreement. However, if you can really make the dev team and the business team as one team, actually they will collaborate. So good feedback will pass to the dev team in a much easier way. At the same time, the business side, they will know from time to time a certain new feature is not going to be possible to deliver within 1 to 2 weeks. And also, your dev team will have better business knowledge because they see how business team is making decisions, handling client from time to time. And when they are doing day-to-day work, especially in terms of like a certain decision for a certain feature, they could make a better business aware decision. Then if you think about it, it's like it could be like 2 team members, they work, individually, it's like 1 each, but it's like 1 + 1 times 1.1. So you get the extra productivity, and also they grow faster. So that's kind of how we see it.
Right. So do you think that kind of concept or formula you just given, that's not just in software, but do you believe that it can also be applied in any other section or any industry in other sectors? If it's not just product but service, do you think it can actually also work in industry that offers services rather than selling services rather than just products?
Absolutely. If you think about like say 2 team members, if they are super collaborative, then essentially say team member A, they did a certain thing, they shared their learning very quickly. Then team member B will actually solve that. And the second time team member B does a certain thing, she might be like, actually, it's much easier for me because I know how to handle this already. And also, I'd rather spend extra half an hour on this task and make this part of playbook. Then team member C, when he or she has to pick up this task, it's almost automatic. It's within the same team, but if everyone is actually practicing really, really good collaborative culture, then essentially, things can move really fast in a very positive way. So I feel this is like, I didn't invent this, of course. It's just in general, I'm a big believer that team culture is a good multiplier.
Okay. Well.
So have you got a lot of business mentors or coaches along the way? Like I know you've got a lot of experience as a serial entrepreneur, but do you constantly have like someone on speed dial that you can just call straight away and say, hey, I'm not sure about this, or do you have that?
So one of my co-founders, David, he was my mentor when I started the startup journey. But now if you ask me, do I have like a 1 person or 2 people, I always, ask for mentorship, not necessarily because, but I ask advices from all different types of people. I'll give you one example. When I started Curious Thing, there was one big change for me, which was I was a CTO, so I was a technology leader, but now I also need to lead the business side. And how do you build a SaaS software sales team? How do you actually scale it? How do you hire? How do you bootstrap? Lots of questions I need to kind of like answer for myself. Of course, I go talk to my investors, ask for the right introductions. I go talk to those business leaders I trust. At the same time, I try to find everyone in the industry that has got the right experience. I try to ask them what they have learned. So I would say, this is kind of what I feel like the mentorship, or it shouldn't be coming from the other people's seniority, because they don't necessarily know more than you do because they are more senior. At the same time, you really need to think about, say, I ask this person a question, whether this person is the right person to kind of like listen from and learn from. So I would say everyone could be your advisor or mentor. Just ask the right question and digest this yourself. So that's kind of like how I see it. In my team members, I also get advices from them. Try to ask them, hey, I did this particular thing in this way. What's your thought? Because you have done this more than I did, right? I've got someone working for me. They've done business a lot longer than I do. So I also ask them.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
So, I mean, often when we talk about setting up a business and people starting out, we ask often who supports them. Like, is it their business connection? Is it their family support? Like, how important are those factors in helping you as a startup to grow and build and scale your business, from family to business support?
That's a great question. So this is the part. I will start with the family part because, firstly, I really appreciate how much, my family, my wife has to sacrifice to kind of like, I would say, to allow me work. Say it's pretty much like 12 plus hours every day.
Yeah, she doesn't see you.
6 days per week. Yeah. And it's not like a really pleasant life if you think about it, especially, if your partner is, kind of like working like that pretty much nonstop, then there are a lot more you need to do. So I think every startup founders, if they decide to start a kind of like this journey, firstly, talk to your family, making sure that they are fine with it, not just for a few weeks, not just for a few months, but assuming it's going to be like this forever. So yeah, I think that's the first part. You definitely need to ask for forgiveness. It's not just a support, but ask for forgiveness because really, if you make certain thing successful, people say, "Oh, well done." They wouldn't say that to your wife or your husband, right? But they actually suffer the same thing with you. So the second thing, in terms of like in general, what kind of like support you get from the business side or the ecosystem side, I would definitely say no matter if you are doing a startup, you are a founder, you work for a startup, or you are an investor, or you're just interested in this, get involved in the ecosystem. Because in Australia, we have a relatively small ecosystem. Yeah. We are growing, but we have a very, very small ecosystem.
Absolutely.
There are a lot you can contribute to. It could be you give a certain business advices about your particular industry. It could be angel investment. It could be, just be a customer. There are lots and lots of ways that you can contribute. And all these contributions actually will help us grow. Not just Curious Thing, but any startup in Australia.
God, every answer you give, Sam, is just like a gold.
It's a textbook.
Oh, thank you.
It's called listening for the gold. Every single thing I'm gonna say to my husband, please forgive me, but all of these years I've been side hustling, and the hours and that you spent, and actually also because you don't go. For me, I haven't gone to a full-time job, and she's about to leave one because you're so passionate about, you want to build something.
I haven't resigned yet.
By the
time, I'm sure you can cut this part.
Yeah. Oh, by the time this goes to air, she'll be gone.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's right. It's that time that you spend out there, as I call side hustling, constantly. But thank you. That's a really a gold piece of advice and wisdom there, Sam. It's amazing. Thank you for that. So have you had many no's? And how do you deal with those no's? And how do you convert them into a yes?
I'll answer your last question first, which is how do you convert no's to yes? Firstly, not all the no's can be converted into yes. If you try, because everything is like about how do you prioritize your time, right? There are certain no's. Say for example, you can't sell. It's very difficult to sell ice cream in, I don't know, Alaska, right? I assume it's difficult. I don't know.
Yeah.
and if they say no, just try to think, oh, maybe it's a wrong thing for me to try to sell ice cream here. I know there are lots of books trying to teach founders every no could be a yes. The reality is it's not, especially if you spend lots of effort converting a difficult no to yes. You also lose lots of other opportunities. So don't try to do that. Try to think about it. Try to be analytical. And the first part of your question regarding do I get lots of noise? Of course I do. Majority of my life is no. And to be honest, that's just what's expected. If you do, not just if you are an entrepreneur or if you are a startup, lots what you do. Like you do, kind of like lead generation for company. You get lots of noise. That's just part of your JD. Like the founder's JD, the number one thing is be used to noise. Number two thing is like understanding what is the noise you should focus on and convert, and try to convert them, and what are the noise you should just let go. So yeah.
Yeah, it's about resilience, isn't it?
But
yes.
but you're saying also to understand the market. There's no point going into a market that will not have the need. Like if you go to sell ice cream to Alaska and they're not going to have ice cream, why spend the energy in trying to sell into that market or trying to pitch into that market? It's better to find a market or an audience that would perhaps buy or appeal to, and then spend some of that energy there. And you might get a yes, you might get a no.
Exactly. I would say, at least personally, that's what I feel. Do not focus too much on the yes or no, but focus on the reasoning behind it. That's more valuable. People could say yes to you, but, they don't really see the value. It could be other reason they say yes. That's not going to be repeatable. People could say no to you, but it could be a certain thing you find useful. Because like I said, I think, especially building a startup, everything is about iteration. The winner, they can run iteration faster. If out of 10 conversations, regardless it's a yes or no, you realize, okay, that's not the sector I'm going to focus on. That's a sector I'm going to focus on. That's something I want to test. That's a really, really good kind of like, approach already. Then you keep iterating until you can systematically get lots of yes. But don't focus too much on whether people give you a yes or no. Focus on why they are giving you a yes, why they are giving you a no, and try to find the repeatable yes. That's how, at least from B2B perspective, because we do B2B software, right? That's the kind of like the approach you should think about.
Okay. That's a really good point, because I recently cancelled a subscription to a software, and it asked me a series of questions. Why? Like, is it because of budget? And then they were really, really detailed. And I just thought, oh yeah, it's not about cancelling a subscription or not cancelling. It's about, understanding the context and the circumstances around that. So you're right. That's the insights that are really, really powerful. I mentioned earlier, Sam, that we're very much about diversity and inclusion. So what's your views on that within the technology sector? I think the technology sector has built a bit of a reputation. So what's your thoughts?
I would say definitely things can be done better. So in technology sector, the gender, kind of like, you don't have enough female engineers. Sorry, I'm trying to, use the more appropriate word. You don't have enough female engineers, female data scientists.
Using stats.
Exactly. Even in statistics, even in math, right? I think this is like a, system level issue, because, I to be honest, I don't know why, but in education, you don't have enough pipeline. Say, for example, if say in high school, people who pick like young girls and females, they pick the advanced math, the percentage compared to male is much lower.
Yeah.
Then you will have less female engineers. Yep. Because people who go to uni study engineering will be lower. And then people who actually go to the engineering job, you will have, many, many female good engineers. But I think, there are a few things I don't know the answer, but I think I have a few questions. Firstly, why we don't have enough females going to STEM education, science, stats, technology, software, is that because the way we select students is wrong? I'm not saying it is, but that's my hypothesis. How do we encourage more females going to this sector from education, right?
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Sam, it's the pipeline. And I think that if there's nothing in the pipeline, then you won't have that at that end. And I think the pipeline, and you're touching upon that, the hypothesis for me is that young girls in the home going to school, either basically the family background or perhaps even, were you interested in maths?
Yeah, I did advanced maths.
So did I, but I didn't like it. I did not like advanced maths.
I did it because I had to.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. You did it because you had to.
I actually didn't mind. Yeah.
But
I see what you mean. It's a pipeline issue. It starts from a very, very young age, and perhaps it could be a branding thing. Like it needs to be encouraged a lot more. Maybe more for certain populations because of the stigma or branding issue, whatever, in the past. So I don't know, maybe we could get Kim Kardashian or something to influence the STEM. No, I'm just joking. But
yeah,
right,
I personally wouldn't love that.
but I know my son loves maths. My son loves maths, and he does very well at maths. I would say I'm a very weak statistician. Numbers.
I liked maths because it had one answer and one answer only.
Well, yeah.
There's different ways of getting to the answer. Much like problems, there's different ways to solve a problem. But I liked how it just had one answer and it was really black and white.
No, it's the formulas that drives me. But I think going back to what you're saying, Sam, is the pipeline and the hypotheses, or looking at how do we create that pipeline and looking at how to engage more young women into STEM, the subjects like STEM. And from your perspective, that's how perhaps you can then address the lack of women in technology.
Yeah, I'm not a policymaker, but that's kind of like how I see the problem. So I really hope, we have more female engineers, and, I highly encourage, if you are in high school or you are in uni, try to consider something, that is more like technology. If you are interested, don't fear the fact that, you are female, because to be honest, I think having more females in the wheel will definitely bring more perspective, because today technology is not just about, coding. It's not just about getting a certain answer out. There are lots of, solutioning part that would actually need different perspectives.
What's your advice for individuals and business owners, especially those of migrant backgrounds? What's your advice to them if they want to start up their own venture?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I was born in China. I came to Australia 16 or 17 years ago. I did high school, then uni. I would say, I think the first thing is try not to label yourself, because no matter what you do, I think this is kind of what I believe, right? The varieties coming from individuals today, right? People are so different. Actually, between individuals, the varieties they bring is much bigger than this, kind of like cultural group brought to them. Like, say cultural group is more like, say, kind of like what food do you like, but to be honest, there are lots of different things actually within you, which is like the bigger variety. I don't know if I put that into the right way, but that's kind of what I feel. But if you try to label yourself, then you can only you're actually limiting yourself in terms of like behaving a certain way. Try to find your own kind of like a variety, yourself. That is beyond your cultural group, or whether you were born in Australia or not born in Australia. I would say that's my number one advice, because if you really kind of like recognize that for yourself, actually you will see that you can finally ask yourself a few things, which is what's your true passion, what you want to do with your life, and are you able to kind of like do things for yourself. Then in addition to that, I would say just work hard and try to also maybe in certain cases use that as your kind of like advantage. Say for example, you can speak a second language, maybe that's your unique strength. So that would be my advice.
The difference is you. That's our hashtag for Dawn. The difference is you. It's basically
exactly. So anything, I think if anyone try to summarize, you belong to this group, and for people in this group, you should behave in a certain way. I personally, I'm not a big fan of those type of labeling and advices. I would say everyone is different, and you should work in the way that and think in the way that is unique for you. If you want to do a startup, try to think who you are and what's your strength, what's your weakness. Then try to basically utilize your strength and try to do something with your weakness, maybe through partnering with others. So yeah, that would be my advice. Focus on yourself first.
Great answer.
Where to now next for Curious Thing?
Great question. So firstly, we are a kind of like technology provider. So we are expanding, and at the moment we serve people in 5 countries: Australia, New Zealand, Philippines, Singapore, and the US. We might further, and I hope
you what? Sorry, just dropped out just then.
Yeah.
You said you served up all the countries, but then you dropped out afterwards.
Yeah, you mentioned 5 countries, and then it.
Yes. I'm sorry about that. The internet here is really, really bad.
Technology, you need to fix that.
This is the co-working space we are at, and this particular room, because that's the only room I can find. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
This particular room is very, very bad. Anyway, so yeah, we serve 5 countries: Australia, New Zealand, Philippines, Singapore, and the US. So we wouldn't be so proactive in terms of like adding, but we'll try to expand further within this region. And we are very, very early stage, and we have only started selling our product for slightly longer than 1 year. So
wow.
I think we have a big plan in terms of expansion, and we are hiring as well. So if you guys know anyone or anyone who's listening want to join us, please just email me.
Oh, for sure.
What
jobs are you hiring? Communication.
We are hiring for one. We are hiring for 1 BDM, 1 CSM, and 1 data scientist.
Okay, we will let them know. BDM, CSM, customer service
manager. Okay.
Customer success manager.
Customer success manager, and data scientist.
Data scientist, yes.
Yep. Okay, so we will let people know about that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Look, it has been such a wonderful conversation with you, Sam, and we really appreciate the generous time and the generous answer and giving us great insights into everything, really. We're very grateful and we wish you great success. And
congratulations.
I have no doubt this is the first, it won't be the last conversation with you. We will hopefully track and your progress, and we're looking to continue the conversation with you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
That's it from us here at DawnCast. If you like what you've been listening to, please subscribe to the bell button below. And I'm Di Lee from DawnCast.
And I'm Kathy Ngo.
We're
also
back again.
from DawnCast.
Yes. We're back again. Thank you.
All right. See you.
See you.